My name is Austin, and I'll be guiding us through this presentation today about the Aggie Green Fund. So what exactly is the Aggie Green Fund? So it's a student-led initiative implemented in 2011. So basically what we do is we fund sustainability projects via grants. So a student or a student organization or faculty or staff can all apply. And then we can have different grant making options for each of those different scenarios in order to help improve campus and make it more environmentally friendly. As you've probably seen around campus, we have lots of different landmark projects. We have everything from water bottle filling stations to recycling bins. So there's lots of visible elements on campus that have all been funded through the Aggie Green Fund. So far, we've spent $2.1 million. We've granted all of that to students and faculty and student organizations. So that way we could fund 90 projects. And one of the most important things to remember about the Aggie Green Fund is that it's funded through student tuition and fees, which means that it's your money. You might as well take advantage of it and help make A&M a better place. And so now we have two different grants that you can potentially apply for. We have micro grants and major grants. I'm going to be going over micro grants first. These are the smaller scale grants for shorter timeframes and smaller amounts of money. So we'll be accepting applications on a rolling basis starting September 15th. So this is sort of a first come, first serve process. And the earlier you apply, the earlier you can potentially get your funding. So don't wait too long. It's better to apply as soon as you're ready. Applications are accepted until funds run out or March 1st, whichever comes first. So while we do accept applications even into next semester, that is dependent on how much money we have remaining. So if you have a grant idea, it's best to apply early, just as I said. And currently we have $20,000 available for our 2021 to 2022 microgrants. So we have a lot of money available, a lot of different options that you can take advantage of. And so funding decisions are made within 30 to 45 days. Like I said, it's a rolling basis. So as applications come in, then we can get back to you within about a month or a month and a half. And so now let's talk about some of the general eligibility requirements, like what goes into this process. So we have some general eligibility criteria for all AGF projects, but in addition to that, we also have specifically for microgrants that the projects must be $3,500 or less. So if you're interested in larger scale projects, that is still totally an option. We would have you do a major grant instead. But if you're planning to have $3,500 or less, then this is the grant option for you. It must be completed within 6 months. So this is a shorter time scale. So we expect a little bit quicker implementation. And it must not require council for built environment approval. And so basically what this means is that certain projects might create a very visible change to campus, something like maybe building a garden or changing the facade of a building. And these types of very visible changes are going to require CBE approval. So if you're looking to do something more along those lines, then that's still a possibility. You would just have to get a major grant instead. So to sum up, micro grants are $3,500 or less, must be completed within 6 months, and they must not require CBE approval. Those are the main things. If it goes over these items, then that's still a possibility, but only for major grants. And so just to give you an idea of what microgrant projects look like, here are a few that we've had in the past. We've had air dryers, recycling bins, and even e-waste bins. So lots of different options. You can get very creative with it. We like to see a lot of student involvement. So anything that can help get students involved, help them be more aware of the Green Fund and what it does. Those are all very, very good things that we'd like to see as well. And so now, just to give you a little bit of an understanding of what major grants are, generally major grants are a little bit more complex than microgrants because it has a two-phase application process. So grantees are announced in February 22nd, 2022. So that means that it takes a little bit longer to get the funding. The first phase is the abstract. And so the abstract basically consists of a general idea of your project. We're just trying to get a sense of what are you trying to go for, what what are you trying to make into reality? We need just some general information about your budget, your timeline, and all of these types of elements. And you'll have 1 month between October 4th and November 4th to submit this abstract. And then we also would like to inform you that selected applicants are announced on December 1st and then invited to phase 2, which is the full application. So after you get through phase 1, then you can move on to phase 2 pending approval. And so this application is a little bit more detailed. So phase 2 involves more details about your project. And so we want to see that you've gotten all the approvals necessary with different organizations, different parties, so that way you can begin implementation once you receive funding. So I'd like to see that you can apply this money in a very quick timescale. For eligibility, of course, we have our general eligibility criteria for AGF projects. I'll get a little bit more into what exactly those types of criteria look like in a minute, but generally for major grants, we're looking for projects that have to begin within a certain timeline. So projects must begin active project implementation by September 15th of 2022 and reach completion by August 31st, 2023. However, there is a caveat. If you have CBE approval as one of your necessary requirements, if you're looking to, like I said, change some sort of very visible element of campus, like a building facade, for example, then yes, you would have a different timeline. And so this would essentially look like you'd have 3 months. Basically, you have to begin your project implementation after CBE approval. So basically within 3 months, you need to start, and within 18 months, you need to complete it. So this is just to give you a little bit more flexibility because CBE approval can take a while. And so this is just to help you kind of keep your project on track. And so just to give an idea of what major grant projects can look like, we have all different types of projects we've seen throughout the past. We have everything from urban farming, hydration stations, biology, plant growth, chamber lighting. So I'll go into each of these in a little bit more detail. So for the first picture you see on the left, it's Texas A&M Urban Farm United. And so it's also known as TUFU. And so this is a high-tech hydroponic farming system where we have this large facility that produces plants for the 12th can. And so basically this provides a sustainable food option for that organization. And so we like this project especially because not only does it have the environmental aspect, it also has a socially sustainable aspect. It gives back to the community and it just involves students in a very hands-on way. And so that kind of ties more into the values of Aggie Green Fund. And then hydration stations, of course, are very good because it's easy to see exactly what the impact looks like. They have a little meter that checks to see how many water bottles are saved. Those types of measurements can be very helpful for helping us when we're evaluating these grants to see that these types of projects are ones that you can track their progress. They also involve students very closely, of course, with daily usage. A lot of people use these on a daily basis. And then we have biology, plant growth, chamber lighting. And so this is just to show you that there's a lot of different alternative options you can do as well. And so for this example, they have special grow lights to help plants grow in this facility. So this is just to kind of show you what all it can look like, and that these major grant projects really can be whatever you think can make a difference. It doesn't have to fit into one specific little niche category. And so now let's go over some of these general overview requirements. I talked about eligibility criteria. And so now these next couple slides, I'm going to go more into these sort of requirements and kind of what we're looking for in these grants, just so that it makes it very clear and that it makes it a little bit more approachable. So we'd like to see that you're directly addressing environmental improvements on the Texas A&M College Station campus. If you're looking to make improvements elsewhere, unfortunately, those projects are ineligible. We're specifically looking for projects that affect A&M's campus in College Station. So just to let you know for that. Also, you may not primarily address research aims. If your project has some sort of research component that is still open for consideration, we just mean that we're not generally trying to fund research projects. We're really trying to fund these sustainable projects by students and organizations and faculty that can really help make a difference on campus. And so research aims are not our primary consideration. Although, like I said, if you do have a research component, that is not necessarily something that would disqualify you. The next point to mention is that it's important that you receive written confirmation of support by campus officials. This is something that we want to see to make sure that all parties are on the same page, everybody knows what's going on, and that that you've sort of sought that approval and you've achieved that as well. It's also important to look at the website. We have lots of details there if you're interested in more of these details as well. And also, we'd like to see that you're including education, outreach, and publicity in your grant applications. So basically what this means is that we want to see that you're trying to incorporate these components in some way into your project. Like I mentioned with the TUFU farming system, you have outreach. It's very social. It's something that gives back. Publicity is also important. We like to see that all these projects can kind of support the Aggie Green Fund, make it more well known. And so that's important as well. And of course, education. We want to get students involved. We want people to feel like they can kind of understand what A&M is trying to achieve with sustainability. We want to make sure people are aware of that as well. And then, of course, with the Aggie Green Fund Advisory Committee, so that includes me and the other people who introduced themselves earlier. And so basically, we would like to see that you're consistently reporting your progress, just so that we make sure that we're up to date with everything. So we have a special portal for that. It's called WiseHive. And so that's what we use to track everything to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, full information is available on the website. You can go to greenfund.tamu.edu if you're looking for any type of information that can go a little bit more in depth with these. You can always feel free to reach out to me or the marketing co-chairs, and we'll be happy to answer questions. I'll get a little bit more into that later. I'll have a slide for that. But just to let you know, if you did want to just check something real quick, of course, feel free to go and look at the website. And now let's talk more specifically about the selection criteria. So these are sort of the elements that we're looking for. We generally rate these applications in 11 specific areas. So the first cluster of areas include these that you see here. So we have concept, well-written application, capability of project team, evaluation, and follow-up. So basically, we want to see that your concept is well thought out, that you have an application that doesn't have any grammatical errors or anything that would sort of take away our confidence that you have everything figured out and well planned. So that sort of thing. Of course, the capability of the project team. Is this a team of people who will once again give us confidence that you can implement these projects? And then kind of what I mentioned earlier about environmental impact and campus impact, these are very important as well. We'd like to see these elements included because that is sort of the idea of the Aggie Green Fund, is that we really want to make a sustainable difference. We really want people to be able to kind of enjoy these differences and make a big impact on campus. So that also segues in the next point: student involvement, outreach, publicity. These are all important. If you document these things, that is definitely something that we like to see. It kind of helps your application because we do want to get students involved. We do want to make this to be sort of something that people can all enjoy. And then, of course, budget and cost effectiveness. If your plan doesn't make financial sense, or it's just something that doesn't seem very feasible, it doesn't seem like you can actually implement it, then unfortunately, then that could be something that would not help your application. So it's important to make sure you have those as well. And academic gains are important, so please consider those. And now I just listed a whole bunch of things that might seem kind of intimidating. I want to emphasize that these projects don't necessarily need to meet every single one of these items. These are just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking for. So if you happen to miss one or maybe two of these items, that doesn't necessarily disqualify you. We would like to see as many of these items represented in your application as possible. But if you happen to miss an item, that is totally fine. Preference is given to projects with strong student involvement and/or that demonstrate the greatest reduction in Texas A&M's environmental impact a cost-effective manner. So if you're looking for a few of these elements to really focus on, I'd recommend student involvement, reduction in like energy use and that sort of thing, and of course being cost effective. So these are sort of the main elements that we're looking for and we like to see in the applications. And of course, you can feel free to look at all these on the Green Fund website. Everything's listed there. So if you'd like to take a closer look at this list, feel free to do so. All of that is available to you. And so now I just gave you a lot of information. We want to make this very approachable. We don't want to make this something that feels too daunting or intimidating. So we have all the key dates listed here. Feel free to take a screenshot, take a picture of your screen, whatever you'd like to do to get these dates down. This includes our microgrants and major grants. So our microgrants, we have another informational, just like this one, coming up on September 29th at the same time via Zoom. So keep that in mind as well. If you have a friend you'd like to ask to come to the next meeting, we'd be happy to have you. And microgrant applications open today. So microgrant applications are ready for submission. So you can get started whenever you'd like. For major grants, we have a major grant and microgrant informational that primarily focuses on major grants, and that is on October 5th from 7:30 to 8:30. So a little bit different time, but that's when it'll be held, and also be held via Zoom. Phase 1 of the abstract submission opens October 4th. So it's just a few weeks away. We'll, like I said, we'll have another informational to kind of go more into detail about what those look like. And then, of course, once that submission process has been completed on November 4th, abstract approvals will be announced December 1st. Which then segues into the next point, that phase 2, the full application submission for all of those who've been accepted for their abstracts, would be invited to continue from December 1st through February 1st. So you'll have a little while to respond back with your full application. And so major grant recipients are then announced in February on the 22nd. So please keep all that in mind. And so, yeah, like I said, if you'd like to take a screenshot of this or whatever you'd like to do, this information, of course, is available on the website, but if you'd like to take a screenshot, that would be fine as well. All right, and so now we're on to the next point is if you're interested in sort of getting a behind the scenes look, you actually want to be the person who's voting on what grants get accepted and which projects actually get funding. If you want to be maybe in a position like myself where you're doing outreach and you're serving as an information chair, or maybe you'd like to do a different position and you want to get involved, we do have applications open on February in 2022. So this is a quote by Stefan Warren. He was a project analysis chair. And so here's this quote right here. It says, "It's a great opportunity to influence sustainable activities on campus. I wanted to get involved to experience the grant approval process. Over the course of my time as a chair, I've learned the necessary steps for implementing change in a large university. The position also gives you an exceptional opportunity to interact with faculty who also appreciate sustainability." And so this is to give you more of an idea of the opportunities that being on the Green Fund can allow you. And so just keep that in mind for next semester when February comes around, that if you would like to be more on the committee side of things and you're looking to get more involved in that way, then that is definitely an option. Also, feel free to contact me. Like I said, my name is Austin. I'm the information chair. This is the email you can find me at. And we also have our marketing co-chairs. We have Jaden and Amanda. And so feel free to reach out to them as well. So that is a good way to reach us. However, if email is maybe you don't have a specific question, then you can also feel free to keep up with our socials. We post new content there routinely, so that way you can get an update about maybe different deadlines and that sort of thing. So that is also an option as well. And of course, the website, I mentioned that a few times. So if you're interested in overview, you can go to the Green Fund website. And so in a minute, we're going to go on to see what an actual sample application looks like for a microgrant, as well as a scorecard. And then we'll have a guest speaker following that to give more information. But we can pause here for a moment and see if there are any questions.
I've got a question. I was on the micro grants. You said that one of them that was done was the recycle bins around campus.
Right, yes.
Was I'm curious how were they able to do that for $3,500, or was it they came up with the idea and developed the whole process, and then it was funded a different way?
I believe that one was funded through, I believe they purchased them. I don't think they actually like constructed them through any like internal means, but um, essentially it just depends on how many you're requesting,
Okay.
because there's some, like with the water bottle filling stations, they can be a major grant if you're asking for maybe 5, 6, 7 of them. But if you only need one, then it could potentially be a micro grant. So it just kind of depends on the number.
Yeah,
Okay.
and on that as well, those recycle bins on campus were across several grants. It wasn't just
Right. Yeah.
one grant. So
Okay.
it was across several.
Okay. Thank you.
I also had a question. I was
All right.
wondering, so there wouldn't be like, would there be big group meetings with the Green Fund thing, or would this be just an individual thing of her like trying to find other people and doing stuff ourselves and just saying we're a part of it?
Right. And so, yeah, this organization doesn't follow the typical membership sort of system. A lot of student organizations will have like routine meetings and that sort of thing. With this, it's generally just a grant making organization. So we're just looking to fund projects. The one way that you can get involved with a larger group is if you have a student organization that you're already a part of, that you'd like to have be a part of the grant application process. So that way you can sort of divide up the work. Then that, of course, is still an option. But you don't necessarily really become like a member. Like I said, you can become a like an advisory committee member. Of course, that you have to wait till next semester, and that is a little bit of a different process. But you can generally get involved in those ways. But yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't really have routine meetings. We just have informationals and workshops where we go step by step through these grants, but we don't actually have those types of meetings.
And then if I could say about like just like general like participation when it comes to the grants, like as far as many people you would need on a team for that, so long as like Austin said, like if you were with a student org that was interested in one, or you just had a group of friends who are all like really interested in that particular project, you could definitely go forward with it and y'all would meet regularly. Probably who you would meet most with honestly is Jesse, just because Jesse's gonna make sure that like your progress is going well, make sure that everything's documented right, make sure everything's going good. But it's not really like we're all going to meet with you as a committee and stare you down and be like, oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Are there any other questions? All right, well then we'll go ahead and move on to the next portion of the informational. So we would like to give you a sort of sample of what these microgrant applications look like, just to give you a better idea, because this will just sort of give you a better visual. So that way it's not just me giving a whole list of information. So right here we have the overview. It just sort of recaps all the things that I already mentioned about the projects having to go $3,500 or less, talks about the timelines and that sort of thing, the general guidelines. So these are all the elements that I sort of touched on earlier. And so sort of the major parts that we're looking for with this, besides sort of the general information like primary contact information and such, is we're looking more for like the budget of how much do you think your project is going to cost, what is it projected to be, and just kind of give us more information on what your project looks like. So for that, I just scroll down a little bit more. Yeah, like your project description, where you just tell us, so what are you trying to do? What does it look like? How many, how much, these types of questions. And then if applicable, you can also provide descriptions of proposed project locations and that sort of thing. So you have a specific place you're looking to implement your project. That's also important to list as well. And your project can be associated with recognized student organizations. So like I said, I kept talking about student organization involvement. That's an area where you can disclose that. Environmental improvements on campus, just sort of like, how is this addressing sustainability concerns? And so how is that, how's your project making a difference? And then, as I sort of mentioned a little bit earlier, that metrics and measurability, we like to see that the projects have some sort of way to clearly see how they're making a difference. And so we have a few questions here that are sort of oriented towards that to figure out exactly what is going on with the project. And then, of course, we have the budget. So we like to see how much it costs, so that way we know how much to fund you. And so you'd list that here. That's what it'd look like. We also ask other questions like if your project would need ongoing funding and that sort of thing, because that's a little bit trickier to do. We might not provide ongoing funding, so that's just something to keep in mind. It's more of a one-time approval process. Although you can ask for adjustments, that is a process that we allow. And then we have, general campus approvals. So who all is involved? Are you using SSC? Are you using maybe Chartwells? What organizations are you working with? So we'd like to see that you have approval for those as well. So once again, that we know everybody's on the same page. And then the project timeline. So this is important just to kind of see how long that project's going to take, what things you're looking to implement. And so you can have target dates that you're looking to hit, certain deadlines you're setting for yourself, because we once again need to see that it's within 6 months, because that is what we consider to be appropriate criteria for a microgrant. You can also list additional supporting documents and that sort of thing. But this is really what I want you to take a close look at, is the proposed budget sheet. So this kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking for with the budget. It doesn't have to be extremely complicated. We just need to see where you're getting your materials from, how are you getting your labor, all those types of things just clearly listed out step by step, so we can get the total amount. So that way, once again, we know how much to fund you, and we can just make sure that all of your numbers add up appropriately. So we have that as well. And then we also have a timeline. So to make sure your project is completed in a timely manner, we have all of these items that we'd like you just to fill out. Just list out when you think things are going to happen, just to give us an estimate, so that way we can see that you will complete your project within those 6 months. And after that, this is a project estimate billable. So we'd like you to just sort of keep that in mind, to include such things as well. And then also the acceptance agreement. So we need to see that you go ahead and sign and fill out this information, so that way we can make sure that the funds are dispersed to you properly, and that you're promising to use them for what you actually said you're going to use them for. And so we have all of that here. And that essentially sums up the sample application for the microgrant. We also have a scorecard. And so this is something that we're implementing that we want people to use as well. And so basically, this is just sort of a way for us to see kind of an overview of what you're doing. Like, how do you address each of these factors? How are you addressing environmental impact? You can list out here how you're measuring it. Like I said with the example earlier, like you can see how much of a difference is for example, this is for a water bottle filling station, how much of a difference that's making. You can see the number of bottles being diverted. You can see performance goals. So you can get a very clear idea of this is how it's going to make an impact. Also, student involvement, publicity and outreach, cost effectiveness, just some of our key points that I was talking about earlier, because we really like to see those as sort of key elements. And so, yeah, all of that stuff can be listed here as well. And that's also what we're looking for. And so that is essentially all we have for the microgrant application process. However, we also do have a guest speaker. And so I'll allow her to introduce herself, just to give a little bit more information about her experience, and just to kind of give you a better sense of what we're going for.
Thank you, Austin, and thank you, AGF, for having me come to speak at this informational session. Howdy, everybody. My name is Christiana Bowles. I am the Graduate Assistant Sustainability Coordinator for the Department of Residence Life here at Texas A&M. I would say I'm pretty well versed in writing AGF grants. I've received 8 grants since I've been here over the last 4 years. I actually got a grant funded my very first year here. So I write most of the grants for Residence Life now since I've been in this position. We've received 22 separate grants totaling almost $400,000, $152,000 of which I have written by myself or with a group of students, since I also advise our Aggie Eco Reps and our Sustainability Living Learning community. I've written both major and micro grants, both with and without the Council for the Built Environment's approval. Some of the examples that you've seen in the PowerPoint were grants that we've done, such as water bottle filling stations or our e-waste collection bins. We actually just received a grant last year that we're hoping to expand upon in the coming years for window film on the Upright Residence Hall that I wrote with several of my LLC students. I'm also the liaison for Residence Life. So if any of you on this call are on-campus residents or are affiliated with one of our Residence Life student orgs, or your idea is just going to impact Residence Life, more than likely you're going to reach out to me. So any of those projects will typically go through me and my direct supervisor, Dr. Carol Binzer, for review and just to make sure everyone's on the same page. I also know that AGF is going to be promoting liaisons for department-specific grants. So like I said, if you're an on-campus resident or if you're going to be impacting transportation, for example, they're going to have a list of people to contact to help you through that process and any additional approvals that they'll have to go through on their department end. I can't say enough good things about the AGF. They are a wonderful group of individuals to work with. I know the process may seem overwhelming right now with just the sheer amount of information that's been covered. It is honestly not a scary process at all. The application is extremely straightforward. All the materials are, and the team is there to help you if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or even if you're wondering about the feasibility of your project before you even start the grant writing process itself. I highly encourage you to reach out to them and just kind of talk with them about what your idea is, what your concerns are, and they will work with you. I've never had a bad experience in my last 4 years working with them. And it's a great addition to add to your resume or your curriculum vitae. Like I said, last year with my LLC students, we got $56,000 for window film on Upright. All 10 of those students that worked with me on that grant can put that on their resume. So when they go looking for internships or graduate school or future jobs, they can say, wow, this person got a grant for $56,000 while they were an undergraduate student. That is really impressive. So I can't push you enough to try and at least get a grant, even if it's just a micro grant. I mean, $3,500 and less is nothing to sneeze at by any means. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all have about the process from an applicant's point of view. I'm also going to drop my email in the chat in case any of y'all have follow-up questions, or like I said, if you are a resident on campus and would like to meet with me. I'm actually meeting with 2 students this coming week for grant ideas that they have to impact residents' life. And yeah, thank y'all so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for coming. Do we have any other questions or concerns? All right. Well, in that case, so just to let you know, once again, you can feel free to check our website. Feel free to reach out to the emails that I listed. Reach out to any of us if you have any particular questions. So thank you so much all for coming. I hope this has been a good experience. It just kind of made this whole grant writing process seem a little bit easier. And so yeah, thank you so much for coming.